Hey guys, Jake Boomer, BAM Pro Tour angler from Spokane, Washington. I'm also the president of Alpha Angler, and I'd like to talk about some of the rods that I plan on taking to my next tournament. The Thermalito Afterbay, which is the lower pool of Oroville, Lake Oroville. The cool thing about the tournaments that we do is we don't get a practice. We get 30 days off limits. We show up, we're fishing the first day. I've never even been to Thermalito, so I'm kind of like, how would I set up for that lake? And I kind of thought I would do a before and after video. I'm gonna pick the best rods and the best setups for me going into a lake that I've never seen before. It has Florida strain largemouth, and just kind of go through the process of how I would look at those different setups that I would take and have ready and why I have them. A lot of times you choose rods not on your own experience when you're going to a place you have no experience with. So I kind of wanted to show you guys some of the setups, but the way the BAM Pro Tour is set up is pretty cool. You have to like kind of almost do your homework and guess where you're going to start, guess what you're going to do next, guess what guess what the fish phase the fish are going to be in. And so it's really hard. You almost tie up as many rods as you can, trying to think, this is the way I'm going to do this, or this is the way I'm going to do that. But most importantly, you just kind of want to have a lot of options and go through them quickly until you solve the problem, figure out how to catch them, figure out where they're at, all that kind of stuff. In this particular scenario, I am not a good like Delta flipper frogger guy. So, and in that when in Rome logic that people have, like when you go to the Delta, flip and punch, it's all you got to do. Well, I'll tell you this, I've been fishing for a long time and I'm pretty proficient at some of that stuff, but I'm not good. I'm not great at it. At this level, proficient isn't enough. Like you're not going to outflip and outfrog Ken Ma or Ish Monroe. You're just not going to do it. And I've learned that the hard way. I show up to the Delta with all this flip and punching gear, but the nuances in every technique you do, you can't have any waste in it. If you're proficient at something in the BAM Pro Tour at the higher levels, you're going to get last. You're going to get middle of the pack. You're not going to cash a check. So when I set my stuff up, I set it up for where I excel and where my strengths are going to be. And a lot of times, the things that I've learned on the road and in traveling and doing that, they're not things that I learned, they were things that were taught to me. So I want to show you probably my 5 or 6 best setups for the Thermalito Afterbay. My social media guy is forcing me to record that tournament, so I'll record it for you, and I'll talk to you at the end about how I worked through all those baits and hopefully got to a position where I cashed a check and qualified for the championship. That's the goal. But let's go through a few rods, a few different setups, kind of my way of thinking about it. And I'll give you guys some of the examples, some of the things that I've been taught by some of the best guys in the sport. I've been blessed to get to those guys are willing to teach me things. I think it's amazing. So check these out real quick. Okay, so the first one we're going to start with is the Zilla. See if that'll zoom. And I'm going to throw some kind of a top toad. I'm not really sure which one it is. I know there's a ton of grass in Thermalito, so I'm just kind of playing it by like, okay, if I can't get a bait through it, I need to throw something over the top of it. I don't have a ton of hopes for, just this off the chain topwater bite from kind of the homework I've done. I don't think that it's a 20 bite kind of deal, but I always would like to have something to reel over large amounts of grass to maybe get a blow up to see if they're there. I don't know if this is the one I'm going to use, but I almost always use a Zilla, which is our 7.3 medium heavy, 50-pound braid with an 8-to-1 Tatula 100. This Tatula I've had forever. I just bomb it out there and reel as fast as I can. I can be honest with you, like I'm really tying this up to see if I'm around fish while I'm moving to the next spot. It's not my go-to. I think the age of just reeling a frog on top of cover is kind of almost, it just has never worked that great for me in the last couple of years, but I like to have one tied up. So this is my first setup, the Zilla with 50-pound braid. This is me, this is my Delta hack, right? Like this is where I start sniffing around for fish. I use that. Now, if I get around some fish that I think are going to bite and I need to stay on top and I can't throw a treble hook, I'm gonna throw this little guy. And so, like I said, I am not a frogger. I am not Ish Monroe or Ken Ma. I'm not good at it. I can't block it in my hands all day. So I try to stay with a smaller profile, hoping that maybe this will, get that bite. Say I get one to blow up on the toad as I'm reeling it around. You might want to stop and throw this around the edges of some of that submerged cover. I know that the water's coming up, so going into this, I know the water has been coming up a little bit, which with the way the Thermalito works, they drain it to feed the rice fields, and some of the water goes into the Feather River, and then fill it back up generally with cold water. So water coming up might mean that they just drained it, and it might be a really tough bite. I'm not really sure, but I like to have a smaller profile frog when I'm frogging around guys like Ken Ma and the Hammers, right? Nick Cloutier, these guys that are just amazing largemouth fishermen. I'm not going to try to play their game with them. This setup I like to have, I have 50-pound braid on it, but I have an MGL, or yeah, it's an MGL. 150 XG is the model, the speed of it. It's a Shimano Corrado MGL, which I freaking love these reels. You can cast light weights a long ways, and it's super accurate, and I don't backlash as much. And I do tend to backlash a lot. It's one of my gifts. And I've tied it on a 611 Alpha Angler Power Skip rod. This rod is kind of like the universal do-all rod that we created it for skipping frogs under docks or skipping jigs under docks. It's just an amazing, it's always got something tied onto it that I think would be my clutch situation bait, like a spinner bait around docks in, you know, northern Alabama when I was fishing Lake Eufaula. I think that was southern Alabama. But I needed to throw a 3/8 ounce spinner bait around docks with 20-pound test. This was the rod. It was accurate. It kind of made up for some of my, I just didn't have the experience in that. So anyways, I tied this one up. I can't remember what frog that is, but I love this reel. I've got a bunch of these reels. I really like them. My goal, my hope for the topwater game, and the reason I brought it up last is if I can walk a treble hook bait around those fish, I will be taking, this is a Strike King one knocker or a hard knock. Bryant Smith turned me onto this bait when we were on tour in the MPFL. I throw it on our 7-foot TopHammer rod, which you can tell from this rod, I throw it a lot. I love this rod. I love this technique. I beat the piss out of this poor rod, but it lands fish. You can throw it anywhere. And I plan to hopefully be able to walk this around some of the outer edges of everything, the outer edges of the grass, the outer edges of, you know, even if I've got to fish some hardcover, this is a good way, I feel like, to get a good bite or two. Once again, it's a trick that Bryant Smith showed me where he's just a machine with this thing. And there would be times when I would stop and pick up Senko and we'd be fishing together and he'd be like, no, he'd pick this up. This was like Bryant Smith's Senko. So this is what I learned from this. And I put this on a, this is a Lew's Hyper Mag 8. I think it's an 8-3-1. This thing is super light. It'll bomb cast this bait farther than you want to get bit or set the hook. And I just use 30-pound Power Pro on it. No, that's not 30-pound Power Pro. This is 30-pound P-line. And I think I said I use Suffix on that other one. I don't use Suffix, I use P-line. But this is 30-pound P-line with a 17-pound P-line CXX leader, which is about, I think I have about 8 or 10 inches of fluoro leader. I don't think that's all you really need. All right, so that's my topwater game. That's for covering water. If I do get stuck in a situation where I've got to flip and punch, I'll just set this down because I want to talk about this a little bit. This rod, the new mag hitter that we developed last year, it's all new blank from our original mag hitter. It is more parabolic and it's got tons of power. But it also makes up for setting the hook too hard and ripping the hooks out of their mouth, which is some things that I did last year, or at my last year in MPFL. I lost a lot of big fish because I feel like I was unable to just pull them out of the grass. I was jacking them like I was Denny Brower. But the braid doesn't make up for the, you know, if you have braid instead of, you know, fluorocarbon or something like that, sometimes you have to be a little bit more careful about how hard you hit them because you'll just drag that hook through their mouth. This particular bait, once again, that's why we developed the new mag hitter. It's super parabolic. This is just a 1 ounce tungsten weight with a 2-aught mustad flipping hook and a BB cricket. This is my get out of jail flipping rig. Like, you can't pass a hyacinth mat and not flip into it. I don't care where you're at, and I don't care how good of a flipper you are. You need to put a bait into those things. This is my setup for doing that. Once again, I learned that from one of the pros. This is just a reaction bite. I'm hoping to get that fish to eat. I'm hoping that there's more hook than plastic, and I'm hoping that I keep them hooked up and get them out. But you can't go around heavy cover and not flip into it, because that's where some of the biggest Florida strain fish live. And I feel like going to Thermalito, this is probably something I should be doing. They're Florida strain largemouth in there. I think they're pretty finicky. So anyways, yeah, setup there. Here's a trick though that Bryant Smith showed me, because we were fishing an MPFL event in Texas, and it was 100% flipping, like so far out of my comfort zone that I had no bearing on what to do next. Sorry, I'm trying to get this to stick. This is our new rod here. Anyways, so we had no bearing on what to do next. I was sucking with the flipping game, and he said, all right, I can help you out. I can get you a few more bites in the boat. Maybe you cash a check. I didn't cash a check in that event. I missed it by one place, which was pretty common for me. But he grabbed my rod and he took off my flipping rod, and he put his own reel on there, which I think it was one like this, which this is just a Corrado 200, 8-to-1. And he put on this high vis 50-pound floor braid. And the idea, and this is also P-line as well, the idea behind this is pretty crazy, but if you look up here, you'll look that the bottom part of this line is painted black. And I use this marker to do it. Hopefully that you can see that. Any Sharpie would work. Bigger Sharpies are better than the other ones. But what you do is you end up marking the line about 2 feet more than the depth you're going to be fishing. So you can see here, right here, you can see that difference in the line. See where the line starts and stops? That's where the black starts and the yellow. You can actually visually see that when you cast you flip into the water. So say this is 8 feet of black marking on this high vis line. If I flip it into the mat and 2 feet are sticking out, then I know I'm probably around 6 or 7 feet deep. If I do keep flipping in that same depth, and then one time I flip in there and there's actually 3 or 4 feet of this black out, or there's no black at all, a fish has it. Set the hook. You didn't feel the bite. And that's what was going on when I learned how to do this from Bryant. Was the fish were biting so light, I didn't know I was bit until they spit it and took off, and I kept losing fish. This makes a feel good, or like a feel type technique where you feel the bite. This also adds some visualization. This is forward imaging for flipping. You know what I'm saying? You're watching your line, you're seeing that color difference. If you flip in there and there's 2 feet of black line showing, and you go and hop it, and then all of a sudden there's 3 feet, it didn't land, there's one there. Or if you go ahead and hop it and it keeps going, they picked it up and they're swimming under the mat. Set the hook. So get yourself some high vis line if you want to learn how to flip. This adds a little bit of visualization to a total feel technique, which I think flipping is one of the harder techniques to master. I think it has more nuances than, say, drop shotting. So that's the setup. 7'10" mag hitter, which is our punching flipping rod, 1 ounce weight, BB Cricket. That's my get out of jail free card. That's the only thing I really know how to. I'm not a great flipper, as I've said. So that's my, if you go buy a trash mat, throw that sucker in there. Okay, this will blow your mind a little bit. Setup number, I said I was gonna do 5, and then I got all these. This is a rebound. It's actually a mag rebound, I'm pretty sure. And this is a tiny little mini mag chatterbait. The reason I throw a chatterbait, oh, and this is the Lew's speed spool, or no, custom light. Bryant Smith turned me onto this reel as well. This thing is super light and it's super smooth. I like it for this little chatterbait because you gotta feel this thing kind of coming through the grass. But I am actually a chatterbaiter. I like to chatterbait. I tend to throw glass rods like the rebound and the mag rebound for chatterbaits because it makes up for that soft bite that you miss. This rod kind of keeps giving and allows those fish to suck it in a little bit longer, and you get a better hook in them. And some people will say, well, like, it doesn't have the horsepower to get them out of grass. In those scenarios where it's really tough like that, where I still want the glass, I'll use a mag rebound, because even though it's still soft with a parabolic bend, it's still 7.5 feet of medium heavy power. You still have a lot of power on those fish. And a lot of times, because of the bend, they get hooked better and it's harder for them to pull off. So I use a rebound with this I think this is a 7-3-to-1. Yeah, I think it's a 7-3-to-1 speed spool, 15-pound test. And this little mini max chatterbait, I gotta give it to Conrad Demex. He showed me this earlier this year. He's probably one of the best chatterbaiters I know. He won the Delta MLF on the Delta last year with a chatterbait. The dude is a stick. But this is a great little bait for sniffing around, being a little more subtle. and it just gets bites. You can tell this one's been beat up. It's caught a lot of fish. So this is another setup that I'm going to take, and I'm going to wheel around. Kind of got to have it, not knowing what I'm going to do next. All right. Now, all that being said, most likely what I'll end up doing, is throwing a drop shot. I know that sounds lame, but I don't do the when in Rome well. I've played this game for too long. When it's really tough and you're just like in our league, in the BAM Pro Tour, getting keepers can get you into the top 10 as well as catching weight. And if this is a tough bite tournament, throwing a drop shot it's just my comfort zone. I see it all the time. I know guys will say, hey, when they're watching this video, how come you don't throw it on a bait caster, do the Bubba shot thing? And I'll tell you, it's because I'm not good at it. It's because I've thrown a drop shot my whole career on a spinning rod, and when I pick it up with a bait caster, I do it differently. I don't know what I do differently, but I suck at it. I just don't get as many bites, so I quit doing it. I just use, like, this is a 7'1" medium action lightsaber. This is our super high modulus spinning rod. I like this for these tough tournaments. I got a 2500 Vanford on it, and 10-pound P-line. Freaking stuff's awesome. With 10-pound P-line, 100% fluorocarbon leader, and this little awesome worm that Jay Gooterding sent me from Phil's Propeller. It's a hand pour. You can only get at Phil's Propeller. He sent me a huge bag of them. This thing gets bit on any species. I don't care what it is. This thing's freaking amazing. So, and here's another trick that I learned from a pro. This is a 1/0 G-lock hook. And some people would say, well, you'd bend it out with a big Florida strain. It seems like it gets up and under the skin and they can't bend them out. I don't know what it is. My landing percentage on this stupid hook is amazing. It's a goofy little hook, but it's just freaking awesome. So I got a feeling after this event that this rod will have played the game at some point. So, last one. And it's funny because I'm getting this one out. This is another lightsaber. When you own the company, you get, you know, I get all the blems. Like this one probably is built backwards or whatever. And they're like, whoops, sorry, boss. But they gave it to me anyway. But so I got another lightsaber, which is my get out of jail free card. And I got a Ned rig. And the funny thing about this Ned rig is this is the actual Ned rig, because a lot of guys ask me. I gave Ish Monroe some baits at the last tournament we were at the Columbia River. And I just said, hey, try this. And because he's so freaking good, he just turned it into a vacuum cleaner and caught everything in the lake. But this is, I think this is the Rapala Crush City Ned on a custom 1/4 ounce. I think it's a Thrashco Ned head, but I just have caught so many fish on this, and it doesn't matter the species. It's the way to fly. It's on my favorite rod. For my birthday years ago, Brandon gave me this Exist. I normally wouldn't spend that much money for a reel, but when it's given to you, this reel has been around the country 10 times and fished for every species on the planet. It exists 2,500, I believe. It's awesome. It's all beat to hell. It's awesome. Same thing. P-line Endurex, 10-pound test, 10-pound test leader, 7'1" lightsaber. That's my get out of jail free card. Now, I will also have another 100 rods tied up like here and all the other stuff I've got. But for the most part, these are the rods that I'm kind of setting up and going to take with me. I hope I get to catch them with this, because this is my favorite way to do it. But we'll see. We'll see. That one of the tricks that I was taught back in the day was put a timer on your phone, like a timer every 15 minutes. So you don't get caught up doing the same thing. When that timer goes off and you don't have anything, no information, you don't know anything about what else is going on, you haven't caught nothing, no clues, and the timer goes off, go do something different every 15 minutes. So you keep thinking. And in the BAM Pro Tour, that's a pretty cool thing pretty cool way to look at it. You got to just keep moving. The hardest part about it is not having any prior information. So you're just kind of going with your gut. Set a timer every 15 minutes, do something different. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully we do good. You can check all these rods out on alphaangler.com. I know a couple of you guys are going to ask me about this. Yes, it is the new Rebound. Yes, the threads are cut off with a custom reel handle. Yes, it'll be released next month. Yes, it's awesome. I hope I win with it. Thanks for watching. Check us out on alphaangler.com.